A new leader, a new year, and a new threat.
The current economic situation is entering a dangerous phase.
3 years ago, as finance officials gathered here in Washington, what until then had been a US financial problem exploded onto the global stage. This time, it's Europe's turn. As the world's economic stewards gather once again for the IMF's annual meeting this weekend, panic over the state of the world economy has already erupted. A downward spiral in financial markets this week gathered pace after the IMF offered its bleakest assessment yet of Western economic prospects. World bourses crashed as fears spread that the Eurozone's sovereign and banking crises were set to blow.
The reason why it has moved so quickly is that Europe, and to some extent the US, is now dealing with three distinct crises. A growth and unemployment crisis, a sovereign debt crisis, and a banking crisis.
Markets shrugged off the Federal Reserve's latest attempts at monetary stimulus, fueling fears that policymakers in the West are fast running out of options. Some still say that the crisis could be contained by European authorities dealing with a European problem.
I think that under the pressure of a crisis, the politically impossible becomes possible.
But while the Eurozone might be the epicenter of today's crisis, a dramatic escalation means that nowhere will be immune from the fallout.
A crisis made in the developed world could become a crisis for developing countries. Europe, Japan, and the United States must act to address their big economic problems before they become bigger problems for the rest of the world.
Financial leaders now have the weekend to work out a plan to prevent a market sell-off cascading into a global financial crisis which would tip the world back into recession. Today, it's the G20's turn to meet to discuss a cooperative solution to the economic downturn and the Eurozone crisis. But many people now say that the IMF is the only institution that has the scope to take on the task of bringing nations together. Its managing director, Christine Lagarde, says she's ready to take on that challenge. With so much at stake, the world is desperately seeking leadership. But whether it can be found here is by no means certain. Taimur Ahmed, Emerging Markets, Washington.